She was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, a woman who measured everyone by their success. He was the janitor who cleaned her floors, a man she barely noticed. But when she laughed at his worn-out shoes, she had no idea she was mocking a secret that would change her life forever. You won't believe where he went after work, and what she discovered. The city of Boston, a place where historic cobblestones meet sleek, modern skyscrapers, was a constant hum of ambition. For Amelia Sterling, it was the only sound that mattered. At 35, she was the CEO of Vanguard Innovations, a tech company that had revolutionized cloud computing. She was a self-made woman, a titan of industry whose life was a series of meticulously planned transactions. She believed in efficiency, in metrics, and in the tangible currency of success. She believed that a person's worth was directly proportional to the price of their suit and the shine of their shoes. Her office was a monument to her philosophy, minimalist, sleek, and with a breathtaking view of the city. Her shoes, custom-made Italian leather, gleamed under the soft office lights. She had a team of people for everything, from her morning coffee to her meticulously organized calendar. The only person she ever truly saw was the one who could benefit her company. The rest were simply background. Among the shadows was Elias. A quiet, unassuming man in his late 60s, he was the night janitor for the entire 20-story building. He was a man of routines, a silent ghost who moved through the offices after hours, restoring order to the day's chaos. Elias's uniform was a simple, practical one, and his most notable feature, to anyone who bothered to notice, were his shoes. They were old, worn, and scuffed, with a patina of 1,000 miles walked. They were not just shoes, they were a story, though no one ever asked to read it. One Tuesday evening, Amelia was working late, lost in a sea of spreadsheets and investor reports. She had just secured a massive deal, a win so significant it would solidify her company's place at the top. She was walking to her office kitchenette to get a bottle of water when she saw Elias. He was meticulously cleaning the glass partition, his movements precise and quiet. As she passed him, her gaze, sharp and judgmental, fell on his shoes. A flicker of disdain crossed her face. She stopped and, with a dismissive little laugh, said, "Those shoes have seen better days, haven't they? I'll have my assistant send you a voucher for something new. You represent this building, after all." Elias paused his work, his hand holding the squeegee. He didn't look up, but his face, a roadmap of kindness and dignity, showed a flicker of something unreadable, not anger, but a profound sadness. He simply said, "Thank you, ma'am. But these shoes have their own story. They're more valuable to me than any new pair could ever be." Amelia scoffed, the sound of her expensive heels clicking on the marble floor. "Value? They're falling apart. There's no value in that." She turned and walked away, the conversation already forgotten. She never noticed the way Elias's shoulders slumped, or the way he looked at his shoes with a look of profound, silent love. That night, Amelia couldn't shake the memory of the janitor's quiet dignity. She was a woman who was used to people cowering before her, but Elias had simply stood there, a quiet pillar of a different kind of strength. His words, "more valuable to me," echoed in her mind. What could possibly make a pair of old, worn-out shoes so valuable? The next evening, curiosity, a feeling she rarely entertained, gnawed at her. She worked late again, ostensibly on a new project, but her mind was on the janitor. As Elias finished his shift, she saw him put his cleaning cart away, his movements as meticulous as ever. He changed out of his uniform, put on a well-worn overcoat, and walked out into the cold Boston night. Amelia, on a strange, impulsive whim, followed him. She kept a safe distance, her luxury car a silent shadow in the bustling traffic. She followed him for several blocks, through the financial district and into the older, more residential parts of the city. She expected him to go to a bus stop, or a subway station, to some quiet, forgotten neighborhood. But he didn't. He stopped in front of a grand, historic building. It was the Boston Symphony Hall. Amelia's heart pounded. What was he doing here? She watched as he walked to the back entrance, a place reserved for musicians and staff. He showed a security guard his ID, and the guard, with a warm smile, welcomed him inside. Amelia watched in stunned silence. She saw him not as a janitor, but as a person with a different life, a life she knew nothing about. Her curiosity now a fierce, overwhelming need for answers, Amelia found a quiet cafe across the street and sat with a cup of coffee, her mind a whirlwind of confusion. She had to know what was going on. She couldn't shake the image of him going into that building, a man who cleaned floors, walking into a place of such profound art and beauty. She waited. Hours passed. The streetlights came on, and the city hummed with a different kind of energy. Finally, the concert ended, and a stream of people, dressed in elegant evening wear, began to pour out of the building. Amelia watched, and then she saw him. He was standing near the entrance, his face a picture of pure, unadulterated joy. He wasn't in his uniform. He was in a simple, but clean, black suit, and he was holding a violin case. His eyes, the same kind, tired eyes she had seen in her office, were now sparkling with a profound, almost childlike happiness. Amelia's world, a world built on metrics and logic, had just been turned on its head. She watched as he greeted a few musicians, his face a mask of quiet respect. And then, he walked away, his violin case tucked carefully under his arm. He walked past her, his worn shoes making no sound on the pavement. He was a different man, a man of grace and art. He was the janitor who cleaned her floors, and he was something else entirely. The next day at the office, Amelia was a different woman. She sat in her office, the spreadsheets and reports now a meaningless jumble of numbers. All she could think about was Elias. The two lives he led. The hidden world he kept. She realized she had not just laughed at his shoes, she had laughed at his humanity, at his life, at the very core of who he was. The thought filled her with a profound, aching shame. That evening, she stayed late again, not out of curiosity, but out of a desperate need to apologize. She waited for him in the hallway, a sense of nervous dread in her stomach. When he arrived, she almost didn't recognize him in his simple work clothes. "Elias," she said, her voice soft and hesitant. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" He looked up, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He had never heard her use his name before. "Yes, ma'am," he asked, his voice gentle. I owe you an apology," Amelia said, her voice trembling. "Yesterday, I was disrespectful. I laughed at your shoes. I didn't know." Elias looked at her, and a sad smile crossed his face. "It's all right, ma'am. You didn't know their story. They're just shoes." "They're not just shoes," Amelia said, her voice filled with a newfound conviction. "I saw you last night. At the symphony. I saw you holding that violin. You're a musician." Elias's eyes widened, a flicker of alarm in them. It's just a hobby, ma'am," he said, his voice low. "No, it's not," Amelia insisted. "I saw the way you looked at that violin. I saw the way you looked at the building. That's your life. Why are you here, cleaning these floors?" Elias hesitated, then, with a sigh, he motioned to a small bench nearby. "Sit, ma'am," he said. "It's a long story." Amelia sat, her expensive suit a sharp contrast to his worn uniform. "My father was a violin maker," Elias began, his voice a low, melodic hum. "He taught me to play when I was a boy. He taught me that music is a conversation with the universe. I was good. Very good. I got a scholarship to Juilliard. I was on my way to a great career. But then my father got sick. He needed a very expensive operation. My scholarship wasn't enough. I needed money. I started working odd jobs, cleaning, construction, anything I could find. But the money wasn't coming in fast enough." He paused, a look of profound sorrow on his face. "My father, he was a stubborn man. He wouldn't take a loan. He told me to sell his violin. It was his masterpiece. The last one he ever made. It was his soul. But he told me, 'Son, your future is more important than my past.' I sold it. I sold his last masterpiece. The money saved his life. But it broke my heart. I couldn't play anymore. The music, it was gone. It felt like a betrayal." Amelia listened, her eyes welling up with tears. She saw the story not in a series of words, but in the lines on his face, in the way he spoke of his father, in the love he still held for his lost music. "After my father passed away, I found a new purpose. I started working at the Symphony Hall. I started cleaning the floors, the chairs, the instruments. I wanted to be close to the music. Even if I couldn't play it, I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be a part of a place where people celebrated the very thing I had to give up. The shoes, they were my father's. He wore them every day in his workshop. He wore them when he taught me to play. I wear them so I can still feel his presence. They are a reminder of what he gave me, of what I gave up for him. They're a reminder that some things are more valuable than money." Amelia was speechless. Her world, a world of spreadsheets and stock prices, was so small, so insignificant compared to the world Elias inhabited. He had given up his life's passion to save his father's life, and he had done it with quiet dignity. She had laughed at the shoes that held the most precious story she had ever heard. "Elias," she said, her voice filled with a new kind of conviction. "I want to help you." He shook his head. "Ma'am, I don't need help. I'm happy. I'm close to the music. And I'm a good janitor." "No," Amelia insisted. "You're more than that. You're a master. Your father's masterpiece, is it still in the city?" Elias nodded, his eyes filled with a flicker of hope. "It's in a museum. The Music Museum. It's on display. They call it the Father's Gift." Amelia's mind, the brilliant, strategic mind that had built an empire, was now working on a new kind of problem. It wasn't about profits or acquisitions, it was about human connection and redemption. The next morning, Amelia called her assistant and cancelled all her meetings. She spent the entire day on the phone, a whirlwind of frantic, determined action. She contacted her lawyers, her financial advisors, and her public relations team. She was working on a deal far more important than any she had ever done before. She was going to give Elias his music back. A week later, Amelia Sterling, the cold, ruthless CEO, walked into Elias's office at the end of his shift. She wasn't wearing her usual expensive suit. She was in a simple, elegant dress, and her face was a mixture of nervousness and excitement. "Elias," she said, her voice soft. "I have something for you." She handed him a large, velvet-wrapped box. He looked at it, confused, then looked at her. "What is this, ma'am?" he asked. "It's a gift," Amelia said, a genuine smile on her face. "A gift of music." He opened the box, and a single, perfect violin lay on a bed of silk. It was a masterpiece, its wood a warm, deep mahogany, its strings a perfect, silent promise of sound. It was the father's gift. Elias's hands trembled as he held it. He ran his fingers over the smooth, cool surface, a single tear running down his cheek. He looked at Amelia, his eyes filled with a profound, unutterable gratitude. How did you?" he stammered. "I bought it," Amelia said simply. "It was a donation to the museum. I paid them a lot of money to buy it back. And then I paid a lot more to have it restored." He was speechless. He didn't know what to say. He looked at the violin, then at his shoes, then back at the violin. The shoes were a reminder of the past, of a sacrifice. The violin was a promise of the future, of a redemption. "Elias," Amelia said, her voice filled with emotion. "I can't give you back what you lost. But I can give you a chance to play again. I can give you a chance to make new music. I have set up a foundation in your name. We will fund young musicians who can't afford a proper instrument. We will fund their dreams. I have a position for you, too. You won't be cleaning floors anymore. You will be a curator, a mentor to young musicians. You will teach them about music, and about sacrifice, and about what really matters." Elias looked at her, his eyes welling up with tears. He had given up his music for his father's life, and a kind, arrogant woman, a woman he had never truly met, had given it back to him. "Thank you, ma'am," he said, his voice raw with emotion. "You have no idea what this means to me." Amelia smiled, a genuine, unpracticed smile that reached her eyes. "Thank you, Elias," she said softly. "You have no idea what you've given me. You've given me a new perspective. You've taught me that true value is not in a balance sheet, but in a life story. You've taught me that some things are more valuable than money." The story of Amelia Sterling and Elias became a legend in the city of Boston. Amelia's company, once known for its ruthless efficiency, became a model for corporate social responsibility. She started a new program to mentor young people from underprivileged backgrounds, and she often spoke at universities, telling the story of the janitor and his shoes. She had found a new kind of success, a success that was not measured in dollars, but in dignity, in kindness, and in the profound, melodic sound of a man playing his violin. And Elias, now a respected figure in the music community, would often play his father's violin for the young musicians in his foundation. He would tell them the story of his shoes, of the woman who had laughed at them, and of the profound lesson she had learned. He would tell them that a pair of shoes, worn and scuffed, could hold a story more valuable than all the gold in the world. He had learned that sometimes, the greatest treasures in life are found in the most unexpected places. And so, the story of the CEO and the janitor became a legend, a beacon of hope in a cynical world. It reminded people that beneath the layers of greed and despair, there was a well of human kindness, a well that, when tapped, could transform lives and change the world. It was a story that proved that a single pair of shoes could hold a story more valuable than all the money in the world. This story is a reminder that you never know a person's full story just by looking at them. It's a reminder that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the experiences and sacrifices that shape a person's life. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to be reminded of the value of kindness. Like and subscribe for more stories that will change your perspective and remind you that a pair of worn-out shoes can hold the most valuable story of all.